What's up everyone? Ivan from Darkglass here, and today we'll take a look at the Microtubes 900 V2 amplifier. Whether you're playing at home, rehearsing with your band, playing live, or recording in the studio, the Microtubes 900 V2 is packed with a lot of great features that will help your playing regardless of the situation you might find yourself in, such as two different Darkglass distortions, the B3K and vintage Microtube secrets, then a built-in compressor, a 6-band graphic EQ, pre and post XLR outputs, an effects loop, MIDI compatibility, built-in cabinet simulations, and much more. Before we explore the features further, let's listen to some sound samples first. Let's start by looking at the front panel of the amp. On the left side, we have the input jack. Right beneath that, we have an active passive switch, which you can turn on if your bass has a hot output. Next to it, we have the Microtubes engine toggle switch, which turns on and off the distortion engine. Next to that, we can pick between the vintage Microtubes and the B3K circuits. Then we have the compressor. The more you turn it clockwise, the more compression is applied, and also there's an automatic makeup gain that is added to your signal for ease of use. Next, we have the Microtubes engine section, which has 4 controls to adjust your tone. First, we have the drive control, which adjusts how much distortion or overdrive is applied to your signal. Then we have the level, which controls the volume of the distorted signal. Then we have the tone, which controls how dark or bright the distorted signal is going to be. And finally, the blend control, which balances between the clean, unaffected, and the distorted signal. Following that, we have the gain knob, which controls the volume going into the 6-band graphic EQ. Next to the gain, we have the 6-band graphic EQ, which has plus or minus 12 dB of boost or cut. And we have a low shelf set at 80 Hz, then 250 Hz for the low mids, 500 Hz for the mids, 1.5 kHz as well as 3 kHz for the upper mids, and also a high shelf at 5 kHz. All the way to the right, we have the mute switch and also the master volume control, which controls the volume and output going into your cabinet. In the back panel of the amp, we have 2 different speaker outputs and also a switch to toggle between 4 and 2 ohms, which is really helpful depending on the type of cabinet that you have. Then we have an effects loop. Then we have 2 XLR outputs, one for a completely clean, unaffected, dry signal, and the other one that includes the EQ, compression, and distortion. Also, the cabinet selection button that allows you to pick between 3 different cabinets that you can load using the Darkglass suite. On top of the XLR outputs, we also have a ground lift in case you're having noise issues. We also have an aux in in case you want to connect a playback device. Then we have the headphone volume control and the headphone output jack for silent practice, a USB port to connect the Microtubes 900 V2 to your computer and to the Darkglass Suite software, a 5-pin MIDI connector, and also an input for the Darkglass Intelligent Foot Switch that will allow you to engage and disengage the distortion and also mute the amplifier. Now let's check out the features of the front panel, but while I'm playing. Here I have my Dingwall SP1. This is a passive instrument, which is why I have the passive active switch set to the passive position. If it was an active bass or a bass that had a really hot output, I would probably engage this to avoid getting either too much compression or too much distortion. Let's listen to the sound with the amp set flat, other than with the cap simulation being engaged, and it sounds like this. Now for comparison, I'm going to disengage the cap simulation and engage it one more time. As you can hear, the sound without the cap simulation is a lot brighter, but pretty open. With the cap simulation, you have a bit more punch in the low end, even though it is darker, but that's what we are going to use the EQ for, and also it sounds really good when you use distortion. Now, I'm going to leave the cap simulation on for now and check out the compressor. Right now, it's in the 12 o'clock position. If I lower this, you can also hear that the volume gets reduced. And if I increase this even more, you can see this little LED lighting up, indicating that there's gain reduction being applied. And what's really cool about this compressor is that even at high settings, you don't feel too compressed. It doesn't really completely squash your signal. You still retain some natural response of the instrument, even though it's a one-knob compressor. I also like that we can leave it at, for example, noon, and even though we don't see any gain reduction happening, still the sound of the bass is glued together a bit more than if I was not using any compression. Next up, we have the Microtubes engine switch, and this turns on the distortion circuits. And I can switch between the blue mode and the red mode. The blue mode has more mid-range and sounds a bit warmer, more traditional, whereas the red mode sounds a bit more aggressive and slightly scooped. Let's listen to how both sound like. Now here I can control the amount of drive that we have in the Microtubes engine. If I turn it counterclockwise, and the more I increase this, the more distortion I'm going to have. Then we have the level control, which controls the volume of the drive. Then the tone control, which is really handy when dialing in your sound. At the 12 o'clock position, it sounds like this. If I turn it counterclockwise, it's going to get darker. And the more I turn it clockwise, the brighter the sound is going to be. It's really useful to have this control in addition to the EQ section, because you can pre-shape the tone or the overall character of your distortion before even applying EQ. And the last part of the Microtubes engine section is the blend control, which controls the amount of clean and distorted signal that you're going to have. Turning it counterclockwise, you're only going to have clean signal. And the more I increase this, the more distorted signal I'm going to have. Then we have the gain control, which controls the volume going into the EQ section. Now let's check out the graphic EQ section. I'm going to boost a little bit of bass and put it back to normal. Boost it again. It is definitely a really powerful EQ. And if I want to cut some bass, back to 0. Next up we have 250 Hz, and if I boost it, and put it back again to normal, or even cut it, which is what a lot of people do. Because this is a frequency that can make the bass sound a bit muddy depending on the context. Then we have 500 Hz, which brings that kind of woody character to the sound. I'm going to boost this. Boost it a bit more. And back to 0. Or even cut it. Then we have 1.5 kilohertz. And if I cut it, as you can hear, this is a frequency that helps to make the distortion a bit more pronounced. Next up, we have 3 kilohertz, which is a really useful frequency to bring more definition, more pick attack, without making the sound too harsh. So right now it is at 0. And if I increase this, a bit more. So we're getting a bit more bite, more definition out of the drive, but without being harsh or brittle. And finally, we have the treble frequency, and let's boost this. And cut it back again. Boost it even more. As you can hear, even though we're boosting quite aggressively on the high shelf, it doesn't get too fizzy or brittle either. And to close this off, we have the mute switch, which just mutes the signal, which is really helpful when you have to play live or just want to mute your amplifier. For more information on the Microtubes 900 V2, visit darkglass.com or click the link in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.